Hello and welcome to Inside ISW. My name is Russ Savee, Business Development Consultant with ISW, and today we're going to be talking about intelligent data capture, often referred to as IDC, with our Principal and Director of IDC at ISW, Collins Sarmento. We're going to talk a little bit about your career. I want to throw it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you got started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. So my professional career really started at Softdocs. There, I started out in support. I supported the enterprise content management system, eForms tools, workflow tools. That's where I got my first hands-on with intelligent data capture. At that time, it was the most basic data capture you could really come across. Everything was zonal OCR. So everything had to be scanned in by the same scanner. So it was in the exact same position. If the format of the document changed, you would have to go in and change the zones. And you would have to create a template for every different format of that document. So it was very tedious, time consuming, not a lot of adoption within the product. And then also while at Softdocs, I worked on building the UI behind a drag and drop workflow developer. So very similar to Visio, but used to build the workflows. After Softdocs, I started working at a company called Digital Designs. That's where I really got into intelligent data capture. My first big project there at Digital Designs was to move away from Kofax. Digital Designs was a company that sold an enterprise content management platform, highly focused on accounts payable. They, at the time, used Kofax for the intelligent data capture side of it, but wanted to move to something else. So I spent about 4 to 6 months researching, looking in, testing all different kinds of intelligent data capture platforms, everything from Artsel to Effisoft, even Kofax's latest things. And we finally landed on Abby. At the time, they had come out with their invoice accelerator. So in order to capture invoices, it made it easier. You didn't have to have a template for everything. So it kind of assisted with that initial capture. And then you could create templates for the ones that didn't work with the accelerator. You have watched Abby evolve from their invoice accelerator to FlexiCapture for invoices, where Abby first got its dive into machine learning, where you could go in and train the system just by pointing and clicking on how to capture the data. No one else had that. We saw that Abby was going in that machine learning direction. They already had the invoice accelerator, so we picked Abby. From then, my time at Digital Designs was mainly focused around implementing Abby for intelligent data capture, as well as working on all the UI development within their content services platform. After Digital Designs, I started working at ISW, previously MTS. I worked on multiple projects and now run the intelligent data capture department and process automation department at ISW.
So, Collins, you've worked around a wide range of technologies, a good amount of that in the IDC area. You've touched on some of this, but can you kind of recap what some of those changes you've seen from some of the earlier
Yeah,
technologies?
of course. So when I think about the changes in intelligent data capture over the past decade, it's incredible to see how far it's come. From simple OCR tools, like I mentioned, where everything had to be in the exact same place, scanned in by the same scanner, to these sophisticated AI-driven platforms that you see today. The evolution has been, transformative for businesses across, all industries. Some of the most significant changes that come to mind are a decade ago, most data capture systems were rule-based, either relying on fixed templates or some type of if-then logic to extract the right data, and was heavy with manual configurations. Whereas today we're leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence to create dynamic systems that learn and adapt over time. This shift has significantly improved accuracy and reduced the need for constant human intervention. Things change, forms change every year. Sometimes they change monthly depending on the industry. Documents have to change. With these new AI technologies, you're no longer having to go in and change the template every time. The system actually gets smarter the more documents that are pumped in and the more corrections that are made by the users. Another major change is the move from on-premise solutions to cloud-based platforms. When I first started working, everything was on-premise, and then the cloud came around. And then at that time, everyone was scared of the cloud. Now I think everyone's pretty much adopting the cloud, and this has brought scalability, faster deployment, easier updates. It's also opened the door to hybrid models, allowing businesses to combine the best of cloud and on-premise environments. Some customers don't want everything going to the cloud, so you can combine them together. Also, in the past, IDC tools primarily handled structured and semi-structured data like invoices or forms. And now with AI, we can process unstructured data, emails, contracts, even handwritten notes. That's one of the coolest things I've seen lately is how a lot of times these tools can read handwriting better than I can read it. So the ability to read unstructured and handwritten stuff has been a game changer for industries like finance, legal, and healthcare. A lot of our clients this day are scared of using intelligent data capture for finance because of older legacy technologies not performing to par, whereas these new technologies are pretty advanced and pretty awesome and can handle a whole mortgage package where you could have one of thousands of different document types in there. Integration has also been a significant leap forward. Today's platforms can seamlessly connect with enterprise systems like ERP, CRMs, and ECMs using integrations platforms as a service like DataSync. So that's another way so that you're no longer having these data silos and enabling end-to-end process automation. Another thing that we're seeing is vendors like Abby are now offering libraries of pre-trained models, or what Abby calls as skills, that are tailored towards specific use cases, such as invoices or contracts or bill of ladings or financial statements. This reduces the implementation time and allows organizations to hit the ground running with their data capture initiatives. And finally, IDC has moved from being a back office efficiency tool to a strategic asset. For example, in banking, it's enabling faster loan approvals. In healthcare, it's speeding up patient onboarding. It's about delivering real value to both businesses and the customers. In summary, the changes in intelligent data capture over the past decade have been nothing short of revolutionary. A lot of these new technologies are built off of technologies that these intelligent data capture companies have been using for years. It's an exciting time to be a part of this industry and exciting to see what's next.
Well, that's an amazing set of technologies and greater capabilities I didn't even know that are even out there. And the fact that, again, I hear every day data as an asset and the ability to take this data intelligently, feed it to other systems, very incredible. So, Collins, you've worked across a lot of projects over your career. Does any particular project stand out? I know people don't necessarily have like a favorite project, but what's the project you really enjoyed? Just one come to mind?
Normally, I like challenging projects, but the project I enjoy the most is working with Zynga on automating their bill lading and invoice capture, as well as a few other processes within their organization. And the reason I've enjoyed that project so much is not necessarily because of the technology behind it, but because of the teams behind it. Working with the Azinga team has been very easy. Lots of organizations are very resistant to change, while this organization, everyone's looking for a way to make the organization as a whole better. Even if that involves a little bit more on their side, if it makes the process quicker, less costly down the line, they're going to make suggestions. The fact that they're willing to make those type of suggestions makes it easy to suggest things to them as well and introduce new technologies to improve their processes. So it's just been a joy working with that team. And because of how well the first project went, multiple projects have snowballed behind it, and it continues to be a successful partnership.
Awesome. Yeah. So, Collins, I've worked across a lot of projects, and some of your favorite projects have been the most challenging projects. So does one stick out that's been a little bit more challenging than others, where kind of stretch the boundaries of the software?
Yeah, I guess there's two that I would like to talk about. And both of them at the time, there was some worry from the vendors who provided the software was using for the tools on whether or not we could actually do it with those tools. And the first project was dealer invoices. So as simple as invoices seem, you just think header and line information. Well, these were coming from a company who had hundreds of dealers around the country that sold tractor trailers and construction equipment. And these invoices weren't just a single invoice type. You had your parts invoices, you had your rental invoices, you had your repairs invoices, which were the hard ones. And the reason that this was so challenging was because the repair invoices, not only did you have to capture the header and line information, but you also had to capture the repair narrative, the vehicle information that was repaired, the serial numbers behind the parts that were repaired. So there was lots of data that needed to be captured, and there could be multiple repairs across a single invoice. So not only were you capturing that much information for the repair, you were capturing it for potentially multiple repairs. So lots of repeating information throughout the document, lots of paragraphs of information about the repair. It was pretty challenging, and we ended up being able to automate that with very high accuracy. So the second project that was very challenging and also fun to work on was our mortgage capture project, lending capture. So we think of a lending package or a mortgage package, and if you've ever taken out a loan or taken out a mortgage on a house, how many documents you have to sign, read through, and that's just the documents you're looking at. The bank also has documents that they have, internal documents that they have to look at and sign. There's documents you have to provide from the state, hundreds of document types we're talking about in this project, and everything from structured documents to semi-structured documents, depending on what state they came from, could look different, to completely unstructured documents. So with such a large library, it was pretty challenging to set up. We had to set up the classification to be able to understand how to separate the documents. We had to then set up the extraction to extract the data, and then all the rule checks behind every different document type. So it took quite some time, but in the end, the automation level was extremely high. Customer was happy. At the time, they were just using it for legacy documents, filing a bunch of legacy documents into a new content management system. And because of the success of that project, they decided to use it for incoming day forward loans.
What a time saver for organizations. I hear about this so much as far as challenges around sorting through these various document types, as far as the time that it takes to pull that together, the amount of hours that goes into that. What is your advice for organizations around these concepts, as far as not yet looking at the technology, still out there doing manual processes? Any general advice for organizations not willing to take the plunge or potentially looking for solutions?
Yeah, great questions. For organizations looking to implement intelligent data capture, there are a few key pieces of advice I'd like to share based on my experience working with clients across various industries. The first thing you need to do is understand your data. Before diving into any technology, it's crucial to thoroughly understand the data you're working with. What kind of documents are you processing? What are the data types of those documents? Intelligent data capture isn't a one size fits all solution. So it's important to analyze your data up front to ensure you're applying the right technology to the right use cases. As I mentioned before, some of the technologies I worked with very early on in my career, I still see customers out there selling it as the latest and greatest technology. It may work for semi-structured, structured documents where the data is always in the same spot, but it might not work for other documents that you may be using. Another piece of advice is to identify clear objectives for your project. Clearly define your objectives. What are you trying to achieve with intelligent data capture? Whether it's improving accuracy, reducing manual effort, or even accelerating processing times. Having clear goals will help you tailor the implementation process and help you measure success down the line. The other thing is, by clearly identifying your objectives, you're not over capturing. I've gone into a lot of projects where, because they can capture everything, they want to try and capture everything. But if you're not using that data down the line, there's really no use in capturing it. And it just may be something else you have to verify during the process. Another thing is to focus on integration. Intelligent data capture doesn't work in a vacuum. To truly be effective, it should integrate seamlessly with your existing systems. So whether it's an ERP system, CRM, or a document management platform, you need to ensure that your intelligent data capture solution connects well with these systems so that you can extract data and then push it to those systems. So we oftentimes will pair our datum sync with our intelligent data capture so that once all the data has been classified and captured, it can then be pushed to any system, whether it's via API or flat file or SFTP. There's multiple ways we can push that with Datum Sync. Another thing is plan for continuous improvement. It's evolving technology. It's not a one-time project, but rather an ongoing effort. As the data evolves, as the documents change, you need to make sure that your system's constantly in check and regular review and optimize your models so that you're processing documents more effectively and you're always delivering the best results. Some of our clients, they come in, we'll set up invoice capture, we'll set up data capture for a specific document type. Within the first month, they're in the high 90s on accuracy rate. Will come a year later, they've started to slip down into those 80s because new document types, new variation of these documents have been integrated. Well, one of the services we offer at ISW is a managed service that will allow us to go in monthly, quarterly, and check in on these models that have been built by the intelligent data capture platform and ensure that they're working to a high standard. And if they're not, we can come in and assist with improving those models. The other big key when it comes to any project is engaging the stakeholders early. It's important to involve key stakeholders early in the process, get input from not only just from your IT department, but from your business users, compliance office, especially your end users to ensure the solution aligns with both technical requirements and the business needs. This also helps with user adoption as stakeholders will feel that they're invested in the process and that they actually had a say in the process. So always engage your stakeholders early. And then my last tip is if the stakeholders are scared or worried, start small and then scale. Start with a pilot project, pick a specific process or a specific set of documents that can easily be implemented and where you'll see the most immediate value. And once you've successfully implemented that solution in a smaller area, you can scale up across the organization. With multiple projects, we've seen people come in and they purchase it for just this small project. And then that snowballs into a larger project and then snowballs into a completely another project because they see what the technology can do for them and they start believing and coming up with more ideas to use the technology.
There's some great advice there. Thank you for that. I'm going to finish up with one last question. Again, there's a lot of stuff that's out there. Is there anything that you can provide to folks that are early in their careers, starting out?
Yeah, for one, be a lifelong learner. Things change daily. There's always a newer technology. There's always a different way to do things. Even when people say that it can't be done with a specific tool, if you believe it can be done and you dig deep enough, you can probably do it. And by continuously committing to learning, it provides you with multiple paths to new ideas on doing things with different technology. If you pick a specific software, there's not anyone out there who knows every different way to do something with that software, or at least for these larger applications we work with. So if you're continuously learning, the more you know, the more ideas you can use these intelligent data capture products with. I'd also say build a problem solving mindset. Before you even jump into technology, make sure you focus on understanding problems before jumping directly to the solutions. Learn how to break down complex challenges into manageable parts. The other thing is communication skills. A lot of technical knowledge is valuable, but the ability to communicate effectively with non-technical stakeholders is crucial. Not only to just communicate, but to also build relationships with your clients and the people you work with.
That's some great advice, and thank you for that for people out there starting their careers. And thank you, Collins. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your career, changes you've seen across the industry, projects, advice to organizations, as well as some advice to some of the folks out there starting their careers. Appreciate your time today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks, everyone.